I had a really good season, I think maybe 2010, 2011, where I got sort of Player of the Year in the Jersey Premiership, and I think that sort of raised a couple of eyebrows at that point. It was just like amazing to again have those opportunities to go away to tournaments, whether it be Scotland, France, Holland. We went quite a few times, and just have that exposure of kind of travelling and playing against different opposition. The big thing for me was just the isolation of going and being with a group of players and training 4, 5, 6 times a week, to like nothing. I still feel I can offer more in terms of like coaching, getting around people, building teams, all that kind of stuff. Then actually my playability and these opportunities don't come up that often. And St. Peter's is a massive club. It's got, in my opinion, the best infrastructure in the island. And everyone, like with the players, it was just a great camaraderie as a whole, and really good social cohesion between coaches, players, managers.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Sportscast Jersey. Today we are joined by St. Peter's assistant coach Dan Garton. How are you doing, Dan?
Yes, very well, thank you, mate. How are you?
Good, yeah, not bad, thanks, not bad. Like always on my podcast, first question is always the same. Have you always been sporty growing up since a young age?
Yeah, very much so. I think, as you can tell, I still work in sports, so it's been all the way through my life, really, from kind of a young age all the way to where I'm at now, whether it's sort of kicking the ball around or playing various different sports, really. I was quite lucky when I was growing up that my parents got me into as many different sports as possible, which is what I'll try and do myself as well, because it's great to have an exposure and try everything and see kind of what you like, really. But played sort of football, cricket, rugby, a bit of basketball, just a complete mix of different sports, really.
Yeah, definitely. We'll discuss a few sports in particular in this podcast, but I wanted to start with cricket. And where did that begin, really? Do you remember your first time throwing the ball around or batting, or first time going up to a session?
Don't really have a specific memory, but I do have a lot of memories of sort of, hitting the ball in the garden and stuff like that with my dad, and then dragging him to the cricket nets. He's not the biggest cricket fan. I think he absolutely hated it when I was younger. But I'd sort of, when I was younger, I'd drag him up there and he'd throw a few balls and throw downs and stuff like that. So I think that was kind of my, early memories, and then sort of playing at school, and then into sort of early age groups of the Jersey stuff, and had really good exposure to off-island trips and a decent level of cricket. My probably best memory of growing up in clubs cricket was with a man called Ray Pearce. He's taken many young players, probably everyone that's near enough been in the Jersey squads, Ray would have worked with when they were younger, and he was a massive kind of inspiration to me. He moved me on massively from a sort of pretty average technical kind of batter to someone that could actually play a few shots and stuff like that. So yeah, that was one of my earliest kind of memories.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned off-island, when like the off-island trips when you were growing up in cricket as well. How good were those, not only for cricket but for social, and also to help you maybe have time away from parents and not grow up, but like mature, help you mature a bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I say, I was very lucky that I had those opportunities to go away with sort of friends and colleagues at that point. And like you say, you grow up quickly when you're away, and you're sort of, I remember sleeping in other sports schools and stuff like that, with sleeping bags and stuff like that. Just the way it was. You probably wouldn't get away with that anymore. But yeah, those kind of things that help you grow up, and then just playing against better opposition, really, and been really tested. I remember playing against some really good kind of English sides and so on when I was younger. And then as I went up, we obviously went to sort of different countries and stuff like that, where you really get a different taste of cultures and experiences and stuff like that, really.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's really good. Obviously you broke into the cricket first team here in Jersey. What your memories of that? Was it a natural progression, or do you remember how you felt when you first got called up?
Yeah, I think I kind of came into it a little bit slowly, more than maybe others. I played kind of age group cricket from maybe under 11s or 12s up to 15s and then 17s and then 19s. But I wouldn't say I was like dominating those age groups or anything like that. I was probably more in the shadows, and it was more so when I sort of was around 16, 17, started to do a little bit better domestically, got myself in really good shape, was really fit, and I had a really good season, I think maybe 2010, 2011, where I got sort of player of the year in the Jersey Premiership. And I think that sort of raised a couple of eyebrows at that point. Um, there was a big kind of transition within the first team squad. So you had, your Ryan Drivers of the world, your Dewhurst, your Tony Carlines. I'm sure I'm missing some names out there, but it was sort of the change of guard. So it was a good opportunity for some of the younger guys like myself to try and step up and fill that void. Obviously, a very big void because there's some very, very good players previously. But yeah, that was kind of how I remember it. And previous manager, Craig Hogan, so who was obviously the predecessor to Maka, he sort of was really keen for the younger guys to have opportunities and really invested in the younger group of us, and gave us that confidence and opportunities to try, and that was he was great for me. Like I'd still say to this point, he was the best man manager that I'd ever kind of worked with or for. And yeah, he sort of, I remember him. I think he met me after training. I was training with the first team. I think I just turned 17 possibly, and yeah, he said, look, you're going to be kind of part of the squad going forwards. Don't feel too much pressure. Just enjoy it. It's just about having fun playing cricket at kind of a high level and stuff, and really kind of took that bit of pressure off, because you're quite nervous when you're coming into those environments with some of those guys that are just sort of finishing off their long careers and stuff like that. And as well as I say, good man manager Peter Goff as well was a massive influence for me too. He was a great captain, a great leader. Really good again with the younger guys, and a really good role model to look up to through my kind of playing time for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned looking up to there. That was going to be my next question. You mentioned a lot of names there, or a lot of really good players. Um, who were kind of your, I suppose, local idols? Who you looked up to? Who you wanted to aspire to play like and be like on a cricket pitch?
Yeah, I think like as I kind of mentioned, like Goffey was a big one for me. He was someone I did look up to. He actually coached some of my younger age groups when I was younger, when he was kind of playing, and then I ended up then playing with him for him. So he was definitely great opening batter, great fielder. Tries to bowl a bit, but he went too great at the ball and stuff. Also liked really looked up to Matt Haig, who played for Jersey and Springfield at the time. We had some really good kind of battles against him, and I just generally liked the way he went around this cricket. Really good all rounder. And he was good. So yeah, I'd say Pete Goff was probably the one I looked up to the most.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Great player. Used to be my teacher, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
he's been around plenty of jobs.
yeah, yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, Jersey. What was your highlight of playing for Jersey, represent Jersey? Was there a standout moment for you?
Yeah, I think there wasn't. There's a sort of a couple of different moments. I think for me it was just like amazing to again have those opportunities to go away to tournaments, whether it be Scotland, France, Holland. We went quite a few times, and just have that exposure of kind of traveling and playing against different opposition. I was kind of that 17, 18 age as well, where we, you'd I'll say I was 18, where, we'd go out for a couple of drinks and stuff like that afterwards. And, it'd be a good kind of sort of party scene at the end of the tournaments and stuff like that, which was really enjoyable. It's not just about the cricket. Obviously, the cricket was really important and everyone plays hard. But it was nice just to go away and be around some of the older guys. And it was just a really good crack. And we trained really hard. We were training sort of five times a week, playing on the weekend. So it was very intense. It was full on. I remember I was trying to balance playing like under 18 football. So I trained like 6 till half 7, then I'd shoot off to Oakfield and we train 8 till 10 at Oakfield. Like I remember it really intense. But it was like great. So yeah, I think the big probably like my best moment was when we played in the Division 6 away in Malaysia, and we had to beat Malaysia to stay up in the league, and that was a massive thing in terms of the funding going forward in Jersey cricket. And I had like decent contribution in that game, and like loved it. And they were really good opposition back then in 2011, I think, or 2012. And I just remember there being a massive buzz, kind of after the game of keeping that, staying in that league and keeping your funding, etc. And then I think we spent about 3 weeks in Kuala Lumpur, so it was like a long trip. We trained a bit before. We had some good celebrations and stuff like that afterwards. So I think that would definitely be my best memory, going over there and playing in a sort of subcontinent country, which was ridiculously humid and hot and sweaty.
Yeah, definitely. How did you, obviously they're in high pressure games now as well, but how did Jersey cricket help you in terms of the pressure of those games? Obviously, you knew what was at stake for the the island, I guess, and yeah, how did you cope with that?
Yeah, I think that goes a lot down to the leadership of the team. So as I mentioned, like Craig Hogan, the manager, Peter Goff, the captain, I think they were good leaders and they set the right environment, the right culture, which I kind of learned a lot from about not saying that you have to win this, got to win it, making sure that everyone's relaxed, making sure that everyone can play within themselves and they're not squeezed up and closed off because they're thinking, oh, if I get out or if I don't do that, then this is so. I think it's a lot about the culture of the team and the way that was set up. As I said before, I think it was a massive kind of transition period where you've seen now how far it's gone on from that point, but it was that kind of transition period where it just needed some sort of stability to stay in that division. So yeah, I think a lot of it's around the culture and environment. I think I've kind of taken that on in my own kind of leadership roles, whether that be at work or whether that be within football, around just making a good dressing room, a good environment where players can thrive and enjoy themselves, as well as know that there is a lot at stake potentially as well.
Yeah, definitely. We'll come on to that more a bit later in the podcast, but obviously with sport there comes highs and lows. And you had a major low back when you were cricketing career. You had a freak incident which caused a major injury. Do you want to chat about what actually happened first of all, and what kind of injuries you got?
Yeah, like it's good to kind of chat about. But I don't really ever really speak about it very often, to be honest, because it is pretty dark. It was pretty grim in terms of the repercussions after it. But it was Boxing Day 2012. Boxing Day 2012. It was either Boxing Day or the day after, 27th. And we were doing something called like a turkey buster. So obviously everyone had been, on the Christmas shenanigans kind of the day before, and there was a trip in April, May time to Singapore for the next division. And so I was very much into like making sure everyone, didn't get too unfit and stuff like that. And just sort of keeping going really, and over those Christmas periods where they, can be quite disruptive for training schedules and stuff like that. So I remember we did some drills, bits and bobs and stuff like that, and we were doing some sprints and stuff like that within the session. Some were doing some of the weights upstairs, some were doing some sprints up at Langford, and I set off for one of mine, and this is probably like 5:30, 6 in the morning, so I was probably kind of semi half asleep, and as I just kind of come to towards the end, just to kind of decelerate, I tripped and I kind of like blanked out a bit of it, but my head was basically, I tripped up into the wall. My head was going to smash into the wall, and I just kind of put my hand wrist up just to kind of stop that, and it just went obviously straight over at full pace, and just absolutely shattered at that point. And I just remember sort of looking down and then seeing my wrist just sort of like hanging off at that point, and thinking like this isn't good. So there I was, straight to hospital there in Boxing Day about 7:30, 8 in the morning, and I just sort of remembered that I was waiting. They'd take me through for the next year. I remember the specialist coming to look at it and was like, sort of looked to one of the coaches that took me down. Was like, yeah, this isn't good, kind of thing. So obviously a lot of pain at this point as well, kind of on the gas and air and stuff. Get X-rayed, and then they get the results and all that, and they sort of say that you've got like 3 different kind of fractures on the ulnar and the radius. It's absolutely shattered. And they're like, we're going to have to operate on it tomorrow. So you're going to have to stay overnight, and we'll put a cast on and stuff like that. And then we'll operate tomorrow, and you're going to have plates and screws and stuff like that because it's right on the hinge of the joint. So immediately I'm just sort of thinking like, oh, like I really want to go away in like April, May, like in my head. And the whole season, obviously cricket season starts in kind of April time. So I'm thinking this isn't good, like, but maybe I'll be all right. And then go through the colour operation and stuff like that, come out, and they're kind of like, yeah, this is going to be a while. They like, you're going to have to come back in like 9 months' time for another operation. But this time you're going to go to Southampton because we don't have the specialist equipment for it. So it's pretty, like, within sort of a space of 24 hours, it's pretty crushing. And I think, without trying to feel sort of too sorry for me or anything like that, I think the big thing for me was just the isolation of going and being with a group of players and training 4, 5, 6 times a week, to like nothing. Just like in kind of recovery or whatever. I had a 3-4 month cast on, and I couldn't do a lot. And I think it's really interesting that sort of the mental health side of things like were really, really bad for me, but it wasn't something that you really talked about. We're talking kind of 10, 11 years ago now. I think if that happened now, there'd be a lot more support. Whereas I think everyone just thought, oh, right, you're just doing your thing or whatever. But I found like I really struggled. I'd end up going for a pint, like to watch the footy on Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, whatever it is, because I was just trying to fill, that time. Ended up sort of like eating unhealthy, like getting into bad habits, and I just like really missed that social cohesion, that kind of teamwork. And then I think at that point, that was kind of, I knew that I didn't think I was going to come back at that point. And then a year down the line, and then I had to go for another operation. So I had 3 operations in total, and it was just every time I like played a shot or there was any kind of pace on the ball or anything like that, it would just be painful.
Yeah.
So it was kind of all over really within 24 hours. So it was tough. It was tough, but that then opened other doors, as I'm sure we'll kind of come on to. So I often think these things in life happen for a reason. One door sort of closes and one opens elsewhere, really. But that was it was a pretty bad one.
Yeah, it sounds devastating, and just to think, not just for cricket point of view, but you say you were playing football at stages too, and obviously sport was a big part in your life, and then to go from that to nothing, it must have been tough. And how did you get through? Obviously, you talked about you went into bad habits, but how did you get out the other side as well?
Yeah, I just at that point I thought, right, I need to look at something else. I need to do like another hobby. I need to look at elsewhere. So I actually started getting back into the football. So I signed up at St John's. So I could play football because there was a risk that I landed on the wrist or whatever, but for me it was quite minimal. I started back playing football. Ended up started in the reserves at St John's, and then captained them. And then a year later, I ended up moving up to the first team, captained them in the championship, and really started getting into my football at that point, between sort of I was about 21, 22 to 25. And just like training and playing. And that was really enjoyable. And that kind of brought me out of that hole a little bit. In
Yeah,
terms of it wasn't the same, but it was still kind of enjoyable. Wasn't that great at football. I was sort of an average player, but just did it for the crack and enjoyed it really. So
yeah,
yeah, started playing there, and then um, when I was whilst I was kind of doing that, I for work obviously I was within coaching, so I'd done my level one football and then started to do my level two football because I quite liked the kind of the actual session delivery parts of it. So I went on like the level two course, and I think we had like a really good cohort that year. We had sort of Gary Freeman's, your Sebier's, loads of different coaches on that course, which was really cool, and just chatting to everyone about um, different bits that they do and stuff like that. And I really got an appetite for that. I think we were together for maybe 6 to 8 months, something like that, to do the level two. So obviously you go back to your club and stuff. So then I started delivering some sessions at St John's for my kind of level two, and then I was like, once I finished that, I was really got the bug for it. Like I really want to start really coaching and getting into it. So ended up taking on St John's under 18s
yeah,
for a season. And it's funny, whenever you come out of kind of coach development courses or any kind of general training courses, you're obviously absolutely buzzing for it when you can't wait to get going. You spend all this time and preparation. And I had obviously a lot of ideas in my head, and I didn't really consider what it's like to be a 17 or 18-year-old. And you'd get like lads sort of turning up like really hungover, or they wouldn't come to a session because they weren't going to the beach or whatever it was, and I'd set everything out and have everything perfect for the amount of numbers and stuff like that. And it was a really good learning curve, and um, we took some absolute batterings. I'm thinking actually you might have been playing in one where we lost St Peter's 12-0 away, I think, and
yeah,
like with 10 in the end, and it was just it was a real awakening to amateur football and coaching. It was like a love hate thing. I loved it. I think Wanderers won the league that year, or they were second, and I think we went there and we drew 4-4, and it was like a massive buzz because no one expected that. And then like the sort of the opposite to that was going to St Peter's and losing 12-0 and being embarrassed. So that was a good distraction for me. Really like enjoyed it. I got what I needed out of it, but it kind of put me off under 18s forever, to be honest,
yeah, yeah,
at
yeah,
that point.
yeah,
But it was good. So, and then I kind of went back into playing a little bit, didn't coach, and then I guess that will come on to some of the stuff to discuss shortly.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, that's what I kind of did to fill that void. I tried to play a bit of cricket, like a bit of second team to try it, but it just wasn't the same for me.
yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't
Did,
enjoy it.
talking about coaching a bit more, did you always know that was something you wanted to do? Obviously, you went into it, and by the sounds of it, you were a bit of a leader when you did play being captain and what have you. Did you always know coaching was something that was interesting?
Yeah, for sure. I still feel I can offer more in terms of like coaching, getting around people, building teams, all that kind of stuff than actually my playability. So I was quite realistic about that. And there's some players that maybe aren't very realistic about their abilities and stuff like that, and that's sort of what leads them to difficult conversations and stuff like that. Whereas I was kind of like, look, I know my limitations, I know what I can give, I know what I can't, and I'll be pretty open to that. Whereas in coaching, I felt like I could give 100% and I put that extra work in. Whereas the kind of football, I knew that I wasn't going to get any better technically. It is what it is. I think
Yeah,
once you pass a certain age. But yeah, it's the same as when I was working. I hadn't had any kind of managerial role yet, but I had signed myself up for the Chartered Management Institution, like a level three, and that was like a year course. And everyone on my course for a year was like a manager at that point. But I wanted to get myself ready for when those opportunities potentially came up, and you do depth into leadership and management responsibilities, all those kind of things. And so I've always tried to like prepare myself or get myself in the best position possible if those kind of opportunities do arise. And I think that was the same with football. I kind of did my level two without a team, whereas like I say, I mentioned Gary earlier. He was obviously with St Peter's first team at that time. Everyone else, I think there's Wanderers managers on the course and stuff like that. But I didn't have a club at that point, but I wanted to just put myself in the best position and learn more about the game, etc.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Fast forward, obviously, in a way, in the football world, you come as part of a bit of a double act with Elliot.
Yeah,
Um, how did you first meet, and was it how was that first experience with St John with Elliot?
Yeah, so what kind of happened was Elliot worked with us doing some work when he was doing his degree and stuff like that, and so we kind of knew each other through work related
Yeah,
stuff. We weren't, I wouldn't say we were like mates or anything like that. We just sort of we knew each other and we worked in similar areas and stuff like that. And then I think I said one day to Elliot when he was back from uni, oh, like just come up to St John's, we're like desperate for players. Like he was playing a bit in the UK. So then we ended up like being centre back partners for about a season or so whenever he was back and stuff. And we had some good times. It's probably the slowest centre back partnership ever in Jersey football. But we were kind of very no nonsense, old school kind of defenders. I tried to play out a bit more, but he would just hoof the ball. No, I'm joking. But it was good. And then yeah, so we played each other for a little while. Kind of talked a lot about football. He then was kind of going on to doing some coaching in the UK. Like I say, whilst he was doing his degree, and we always kind of chatted about football and bounced different things, banter about teams and stuff like that. And I think we both got the kind of same love for Jersey football. We both watched all games and stuff, all chatted about it and stuff. So that was kind of where it started. Then he was coming back from uni. He'd had some various conversations with St John's. Obviously, I hadn't played there. I think I'd taken that year out, so I hadn't been involved in any football at all. And I remember him just ringing me one night, just been like, "Look, been chatting to kind of Nigel Perry at St John's. Like, they're looking for a manager. I think I'm going to give it a go. What's your kind of thoughts on it?" And I was like, "Oh, like, to be honest, like I was like, my last sort of coaching at St John's was a tough one, as we spoke about before. But yeah, maybe it's like, oh, so have you got like loads of players? It's like, no, we've got like 6 or 7 players. I'm going to meet them tonight at the pub at St John's for a chat. So I was like, right, okay, well, let me know kind of how that goes, and we'll see what happens. So we went and met all the players, and he kind of spoke to me the next day and was like, look, they're really buzzing, like really good group of lads. They're going to commit. They're going to bring some players up, and we can maybe with our contacts, friends and stuff like that in football, we might be able to bring a few up. So I think we should sort of give it a go. So yeah, I said, yeah, why not? So came up to that pre-season, whenever that was, about 5 and a bit years ago, and it just sort of slowly built from there. Really, we both got involved. I managed to get a couple of players up. He managed to get a couple more. We actually got together like a really decent squad. And that kind of first season, we were really competitive. I think they'd been beaten about 12 times in a row or something like that before, or some like they were about -60 goal difference the season before. I managed to get them organised and really competitive. And if it sort of weren't for COVID, I think we would have potentially won something as well. We ended up second in the league. I think St. Ones would have won the league, but we might have won something. And yeah, it was a really enjoyable experience. All the players bought into it. We used to train at 9 till 10 at Springfield, and we used to get 30 players there, which shows that the commitment and really good kind of socials, nights out and stuff like that afterwards. And yeah, couldn't say any sort of bad words about the club as well. Really great committee, great people behind the scenes that put a lot of time and commitment. And yeah, that was a really enjoyable kind of year.
Yeah, brilliant. And obviously moving on a bit, St. Peter came calling. I want to talk about last season, but firstly, how much did you need persuading to take that role, the both of you, and how confident? Obviously, it would have been with St. Peter kind of interview process. So how confident that they were going to take you as well?
Yeah, I think they'd kind of signposted kind of Elliot, and they'd seen Nigel Godfrey's kind of seen the way we worked when we played a couple of games against the reserves that kind of season, and suggested that maybe they should take a punt at that point. So they kind of approached Elliot and said, "Look, would you both be keen to come over?" And obviously Gaz as well. Elliot's dad, who was with us as 3, and then at first I was kind of like, no, like can't like. I just feel a bit disloyal to the lads. Like, I don't want to leave. Like, we just built, like, we wanted to do a couple, 2, 3 years and go on and promote. Like, we wanted to move to the Premiership the next season and stuff. And felt sort of terrible, to be honest, like really guilty. But I kind of, at the end of the day, these opportunities don't come up that often. And St. Peter's is a massive club. It's got, in my opinion, the best infrastructure in the island. And so these opportunities don't come often. So I kind of, at first, I was a bit like, oh, I'm not really sure. And then I kind of would jump on board with it and came with kind of Elliot. But yeah, it was just hard because they were great lads. As I said before, committee was great. Like, it was just a good club. So yeah, that's kind of where we got to really. And then yeah, then we started that first season, which was tough. The aim was to get to fourth in the league, get into the Jeremy and so on, and we managed to do that. But yeah, it was tough to kind of start with, but it was a decent year, and then that's kind of taken us on.
Yeah, definitely. When you first took over, what I've heard is that there was a 3-year plan, and by the end of the third year, you'd win the league. You did exactly that. So how happy you that did plan out the way it did, and just explain how good last season was as well.
Yeah, that was always the intention. I think we, in that second year, that St Clement's game where we had the lead for 20 minutes or so, we weren't quite there. They were deserved winners. If anything, that made us stronger at that point from them. We had no doubt in our minds that we would go and win it in that third season after kind of getting to that point, the back end of the season where we managed to get some consistency together. But yeah, it was a really proud moment to go and sort of win the Upton, win the league, and go unbeaten. But all credit to the players. Again, they bought into everything that we said. Their commitment was spot on. We track all the training attendances. Like, everyone was around that 78% through the year. It was really good. The club, the committee, they all kind of backed us through some of the more difficult times. They put everything into us. So I think as a whole, it was just a really kind of proud moment that year to, lift that trophy. And the biggest achievement for me, those, as much as winning those was great, was just that we were in every single game possible. We came up short in some of the finals. Screwville were really, really good, deserved to win on those days. But just to be in every single game possible this season is an incredible achievement, and to get to every final, inclusive of that, is the thing that kind of makes me proud, because that's what you're there for. You want to be in, you want the opportunity to win everything. You want to play in every game. So that was kind of a special achievement for me, and great celebrations at kind of end of the season after the Upton, stuff like that. Like, really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. How special are the group of players as well? Obviously, you worked with most of them for 3 years. Obviously, a few signings here and there, start of every season. But how special was it to see the development of the team?
Yeah, like really, really special. Like you say, it was a pretty close knit group with very much got that kind of methodology that we don't want to add loads and loads of players. We trust the players that we've got. You do need to freshen up in certain areas, as you would have seen this season, but we haven't got a man to sign loads of players. You just sort of freshen up here and there. But yeah, as a whole, really, really proud of what the players achieved. Really good group of lads. They all get on, like, they all socialise, but at the same time, there's an element of keeping those standards as well. People do call each other up in training if they need to, or have conversations, whether that's, from us, them to us, or to each other. But really good group of lads, and honestly, I couldn't be more proud of what they achieved and what they committed to, their work ethic and everything. Just a really good, positive
Yeah,
last year.
yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Sweet. Moving on to summer just gone. Obviously, it was a big summer for you and Elliot and the whole Jersey team as well. Um, Firstly, when did you hear about the opportunity coming up first, and how delighted were you that you were asked first of all to take the responsibility?
Yeah, I think it all happened quickly, to be honest. I knew that Elliot kind of mentioned that Cass might be stepping down, and that he might have the opportunity to then step up. So I remember he texted me on Friday, I think in May, after Moretti, and said, do you want to go for a pint? And I was like, yeah, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just the norm. And then, yeah, just said, look, I've been been offered the role to in sort of interim period. Would you want to come on board? I'd like you on board, kind of thing. I said, yeah, absolutely. So anything I can do to kind of help, and it'd be sort of a great opportunity. I always wanted to try and do an Island Games. It's a pretty cool experience. So yeah, I just didn't think it maybe happened that quickly. So yeah, it was definitely a bit of a surprise, but all the same, sort of jumped on it as soon as I could, really, and was really looking forward to the opportunity of working with the players and having that sort of 8-9 weeks preparation, and then to go away to a tournament. As I kind of mentioned before, like going away with cricket and tournaments and so on. I've been involved in them and know how ruthless it can be, and I do like the element of that as well. So as soon as that opportunity came up, I was really looking forward to going away to a tournament. I hadn't been for one for a long time, so yeah, that was kind of great.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Obviously the squad was there to be picked as well. Um, you included some players from the local league. Did you think that was important as well?
Yeah, I think I know that there's a couple of maybe people that might have turned maybe a couple of eyes here and there, which is absolutely fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinions and so on. Everyone watches different things and different games and so on. We just felt that we knew the players that we picked and we knew what they could do. We either worked with them or watched them regularly in the local league. And yeah, I think one example I'll give you is Paul McCafferty. I think everyone was kind of like, that's a bit of a strange one, or is it because he plays St. Peters or whatever it is? And people had all their opinions and stuff, and which was fine, and we got on with that. But Paul in the Menorca game got man of the match, ran I think nearly 11k playing as a kind of defensive winger at that point. And I think even some of the players were maybe surprised with that he was in there, but he went on and proved the point that he could play at that level and do what he did. He then played right back against St. Helena as well and came on for half an hour in the final. Just to kind of shore things up. So I think, that's credit to Paul. He trained hard, worked hard, and he's got the ability. But yeah, I think there were a few eyebrows raised, but ultimately it was the right call because he performed and he went on to obviously go and win gold. So yeah, but I think it was tough. Like there's some players there that were kind of on the reserve that trained with us and did really, really well. And full credit to them. But obviously you could only kind of pick that 18 in the end, and it was tough.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Coaching wise and I suppose management wise, obviously St. Peter, it's a long season. Island Games, it's short, brutal. How different was it to kind of coach and manage knockout football to what you're used to with club level?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think, like you say, you've got the week to prepare. So, like, we'll train with St. Peter's on a Tuesday night with a mix of reserves and first team. It's all about energizers, about team coming together, high intensity stuff, small sided games, etc. And then Thursdays are squad specific training for the Saturday. So there's always a theme for whoever we're playing, and there's always some kind of theme that we're going to work on that Thursday for that Saturday to try and implement that. You don't have that time within knockout football. So all your preparation is done in those 8-9 weeks, and then you're kind of reverting back to that session or when we covered that on the video or whatever it was. So it just came. I mean, the Island Games schedule was mental, isn't it? I mean, it was rapid fire. I mean, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Just in quick succession. So, and then obviously that break and then semi-final, final. So I think there's two ways of looking at it. I think the positives are that you get that momentum, you can keep going and rolling. The second part of it is someone like Sol who played and then couldn't actually make the final in the end because his body was so ruined at that point. So I think there's some good positives and kind of negatives from it, but I think the thing that we did well through the week was that we rotated the squad really well. Like every single player I think was in the tournament by the end of the second day, someone that they'd had some sort of contribution to the tournament. Whereas I think in previous years, from speaking to people, there's been 3 or 4 players that have only played maybe one game or had one appearance in the whole week. So everyone was like engaged, everyone knew what our targets were, etc., and everyone felt they still had a chance, etc. So I think that was one real positive. It was probably a risk, maybe a calculated risk. It might not have paid off, but it did, and that was one real positive thing that we did, managed to rotate the whole squad.
definitely. Let's talk about the games now. And obviously, it each game was. I thought Jersey, the boys played superbly, and they were the best team on the park every single game. And how proud are you of the performances? How you set them up as well, and everyone's efforts and contributions.
Yeah, really. Again, as I was kind of saying earlier with the St. Peter's guys, like really, really proud of this bunch of players in terms of what they did. The commitment was second to none. I think there was a lot of question marks maybe raised for some of the players, or they didn't really know some of them didn't know us, didn't know anything about us. It was kind of like a bit of a shock in terms of new management team and stuff like that. I think Paddy stalled out really, really well in his first meeting with the players, 45 minutes or so, going through, who we are, what we can offer, what our expectations are, what our standards are, what we expect of them, etc. And then kind of hit the nail on the head at the start, and that was sort of the gauntlet laid at that point. After that, everyone bought into everything we did, and you could tell every week we were going, we were building more confidence, more trust, and so on. I think by the time we got here, I think everyone was fully on board with each other, whether it's a coach and management team, vice versa with the players. So yeah, as a whole, I didn't know maybe 5, 6 of those lads at all, and so you're trying to build up these kind of rapport and relationships within a small space of time, and fair play to them all. They were really open and took us straight up to how we were. So yeah, really, really proud of their efforts. They got everything that they deserved, and they really did. And even those lads that didn't quite make that starting 11, we met them, we had conversations with them. They were respectful. They agreed to disagree sometimes, which is absolutely fine. But they were there for their teammates, and they would, back them up all the way through. Whether that's even just helping with, equipment or having a chat to your mate or whatever it is. They were spot on. So yeah, really, really proud of them in the week. And I think as a kind of coaching team, aside from myself and Carly, obviously Dave jumped back in from a lot of his CEO duties. He was brilliant, really, really good, especially with a lot of defensive stuff and tactical based stuff. I think Dave absolutely loved it, getting on the grass again. Andy Dewhurst kind of come in as our sort of strength and conditioning / bit of everything. Even done some meditation on the night of the semi-final because everyone was so hyped, and we had the final the next day. So 18 lads in a dark room trying to do some meditation. It worked, but it did actually work. So he was absolutely brilliant. And then Rich Heather, as a kind of goalkeeping coach, great guy. And everyone with the players, it was just a great camaraderie as a whole, and really good social cohesion between coaches, players, managers. But there was always that standard met as well.
Yeah, amazing. And obviously the final, how special was that day for you and Elliot and everyone involved, really?
Yeah, I think just touch on the night before with the semi final. I think that was like a roller coaster of emotions at the time. I think we'd gone in one each, and then within 50 seconds, the lad Jake Scrimshaw is a good player playing in League Two now, I believe. He scores after kind of 50 seconds. You're like, oh god, is this us going out here at the track? 2-1 down. The lads that night showed some real good character, and I thought, without wanting to sound too cocky, I thought once the final whistle went there, I said in my own head, I didn't say it to anyone, but I thought we're going to go and win this, because there was just that tenacity, there was that fight, there was that intensity, there was that will to win. Just gone 4 in a row, and I felt that we weren't going to lose in the final. I didn't know that much about Yinsmon. I went to go and watch Bermuda on one of the nights, but they didn't make it into the final in the end. But I had a good feeling. Then the day, it's probably the worst day of the week. It was torrential rain, windy. I know there was quite a few due to come over that didn't make it over with the flights because of the wind and stuff. But yeah, just sort of rolling up at Foots Lane. Everyone was in good spirits, but everyone was fully focused. We'd had a good team meeting early in the day. We played some mini golf actually the day before and just had a good sort of crack together. And then we probably couldn't have got off to a worse start, really. We obviously went 1 down in maybe 5 minutes or so, but played some good stuff. And you always felt, even though we were losing the game, that we'd be back in it at some point. And then Trotz went and scored to make it 1 each. And then 10 minutes later, the guy wraps one in from sort of 25 yards on the half volley. Like, here we go. But then Yeah, I always felt we were well in the game and we had a lot of chances. And we ended up going 3-2, I think, at halftime we were winning, and then obviously went on to win kind of 5-2. But it just showed the depth that we had, the fact that Sol pulls up in the warm up, he can't play, so James Carr comes in. He has a great 25 minutes. He then gets snapped by someone. He then comes off. Toby moves out to the left. Kinsey comes on, at 10, and he has a great game, scores. So it just shows you like the depth that we had and the whole squad. And yeah, it probably took like a week or so to sort of bed in the actual achievement that we've done that week, because everything's so intense and it's just rolling on to the next. But yeah, we had a couple of beers that night to celebrate.
Yeah. So you should. Big season ahead. Moving on now to back to club football. How hard is it to live up to last year's success for St. Peter, and what are your expectations?
Yeah, I think it's a really good testament of a team if you can go back to back. I think to win in a year, it's not luck at all. You win it by working hard and being the better team. But I think it shows the character of the team, the spine of the team, if you can go back to back, because everyone's been on that high, and then it's everyone else chasing you is then fully more motivated to try and knock you off that perch at that point. So I think my sort of big message since I've been back in pre-season is that like we as a coaching team, we're desperate to go back to back and win it, because that shows what kind of team that we are. So I do think it'll be tough. I think we've got that target on our backs now where we're the team that everyone wants to beat, which is fine. But we've got to make sure that we manage that expectation in house and manage our standards and make sure we sort of take every game as it comes and not get cocky about different games and so on and treat them on their merit. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Obviously, we'd sort of just started the Charity Cup stuff and then into the league in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's going to be a tough season, but we're really looking forward to it.
Definitely. And I want to ask you a question about local football and what are your thoughts about it at the moment? How good is it, or what are your opinions on local football in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of a local football fanatic. I go and watch most games. I'm sure you see me up there quite a bit, different games. But I think it's in a good position. I think we've got over 3,000 playing members now, which is incredible. It's the most popular sport on the island. I think there's lots of young players coming through, which is great. And I think it's in a really healthy position, as you've seen by all the ratings, whether it's juniors, seniors. We're dominating kind of Channel Island football, which is good, as we should. We have a bigger population, etc. But yeah, as a whole, I think it's in a healthy position. It's great to see that there's kind of new teams coming through from different demographics and stuff like that, which is great. I think the more games, the more teams, the more competition, the better. But yeah, I think we're definitely moving into a lot more professional elements than maybe we were 5-6 years ago. I mean, look at what the lads have at St. Peter's. I mean, it's near enough a semi-pro setup in terms of they've got their GPS units, they've got their games filmed, they get analysis. They've got good infrastructure, they've got our facility, changing rooms. They've got strength conditioning work. They've got amazing setup for amateur players. So I think the state of play within the local association is really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. How about yourself? Last few questions. Obviously, you're assistant at the moment. How much would you enjoy taking a team and being manager one day?
Yeah, I think if that opportunity arises, and if it does, then yeah, I'll kind of take that on at that point. But I'm not someone that's hierarchical or egocentric in terms of like it's got to be about me. Like I've got to be the manager, and Paolo, take yourself. We've got pretty equal say on different things, and we manage that dynamic quite well. He'll obviously have the kind of final say, but I've got a good amount of ownership of what kind of I do. So it's not like I'm desperate to be the manager, whatever it is. I'm also conscious that I'm only near enough 30, so there's plenty of time in the near future for that if that kind of arises, and that's something that I want to do. But at the moment, just sort of learning on the job, taking in as much as I can, and being a bit of a sponge really. And when that opportunity maybe does arise, then maybe I will. But I think it's also important that a lot of people go into it on their own. and you do need that support network. You need people around you can trust, bounce ideas off, and I think that's the issue when a lot of people go on their own and take a team or whatever it is. So there's certain things that you kind of need in place.
Yeah, I agree. Last question. What are your kind of goals for you in the future? Obviously, you're working within sport as well at the moment. But in sport, be that, do you want to go into cricket coaching one day, or what do you see your future holding?
Yeah, I think I'm still like still Paddy would say the same. Like we're still like earning our stripes in the sense that we are still quite young in the kind of managerial game and so on. And like there's a lot more life lessons to learn. There's a lot more management stuff to learn. So I think without trying to sound too kind of blasé, like I think honestly it's just about seeing what the next opportunities are, or if there are. This season right now it's all focused on kind of St. Peter's and winning that league. So that's kind of where my head's at the moment, really. I think Howley's got a lot bigger aspirations than me. He wants to go to England and coach and etc. and looking for a career within that. For me, it's always been about the kind of fun and enjoyment. I like living over here. I've got sort of a baby on the way and stuff, and it's just that's kind of, so at some point we will sort of potentially go on different paths and stuff. But yeah, we'll kind of see what happens in the near future. But for me, if I'm enjoying it, then great. If I'm not enjoying it, then that's not where I want to be, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Right, Dan, thank you for coming on. Good luck this season as well with St. Peter. Obviously,
Thank you, mate.
I'll be along with the ride, covering the games and what have you. So good luck, and yeah, well done for everything this summer and last season as well.
Cool. Thank you for your time, mate. Much appreciated.
Brilliant. Cheers, Dan.
Cheers.
That was another episode of Sportscast Jersey. Thank you for watching or listening. Another episode is coming soon.